From the swamp to the stars, it is that time of the night once again where we head over to little Timmy Seanor and the UFO report.
Nobody's gonna know.
They're gonna know.
Big Bad Tim, the Timbit here. What's going on, my friend?
Hey, Dave. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm good. I'm good, man.
Good.
What's happening in your neck of the woods there?
Not much. Just let me know if my sound is a little off tonight. I do have a new system in place, so if that sounds good, then everything's good to go. Yeah.
You sound perfect.
Good.
You know, what were you tinkering with the technology? Is that what you were doing?
Yeah, I tinker. I've been tinkering.
Oh, you're a tinkerer.
I am. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm about to. I've been developing a little buddy who is going to be released here soon to the audience. He's going to help me with my job here with you. I put together a little robot with microphones and a camera, and he's going to cruise around my house and help me with some of my work. And you guys might get a chance to meet Streambot 5000 here at some point, but he's almost done in development, and we'll be rolling literally out here any day.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's get to the UFO world, because we got some weird stuff happening out in the world these days. UFOs, extraordinary evidence, requires extraordinary funding. What's your thoughts on that?
Exactly. And so this is an article coming from The Hill, an op-ed piece written by Avi Loeb himself. And so this piece was in The Hill, released just a couple days ago. And in this, it's written from first-person perspective and from his point of view. And so we'll jump into this. And he says, imagine a question that is of great interest to the public and to authorities, but scholars argue that it should be banned and ridicule peers who engage with it. It sounds like the Earth-centric theologians who persecuted Galileo Galilei 4 centuries ago, doesn't it? If so, we might feel relieved to argue that we came a long way since the Middle Ages, through the age of enlightenment to modern science. Well, maybe not so. As of March 2023, mainstream scientists react to intriguing evidence about anomalous objects near Earth by banning the possibility that one or more of them might be extraterrestrial technology in origin. And so to argue is one thing, but to repeat Carl Sagan's mantra that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, or ECREE, without seeking the evidence is circular argument or a self-fulfilling prophecy. It is akin to George Orwell's newspeak in his novel 1984, where the party's slogan is ignorance is strength. So the enlightened approach to the intriguing evidence is to seek more evidence, and that this requires action, not a flat dismissal. And so that makes it often unpopular. And so the point is that extraordinary evidence requires extraordinary funding, or EEREF, the theory of supersymmetry that was an extraordinary claim for decades. But testing it required the investment of $10 billion in the Large Hadron Collider. So the scientific study of objects near Earth as potential extraterrestrial technological signatures receives no federal funding at this time. So the committees in charge of allocating federal funds to space research are full of mainstream scientists who now argue that they should minimize risks in order to save taxpayers' money. But the reality is that taxpayers are fascinated by this question more than many of the other questions funded by these committees. So the U.S. Congress has established last year the AARO office, headed by Sean Kirkpatrick, under the Department of Defense and the National Director of Intelligence, or the DNI. And so it is the day job of these agencies to monitor the Earth's atmosphere for suspicious objects, and they would be the first to notice the anomalies. So the point here is that independent research must be aggressively obtained, and the only way to do it is to initiate funding for such programs. We've heard it before many times from independent organizations, but especially coming from Avi Loeb. Now, we know he comes from Harvard University and he utilizes a lot of students in some of his work. So there are quite a lot of benefits to educating and bringing this topic to the mainstream. However, again, we see being back to the fact that we're always looking for more funding for this project. It's kind of screams perhaps something we've seen in the past coming from SETI, where they've taken decades of funding with very few results and definitely no transparency for the public. So we're going now forward looking for more research towards Oumuamua research and deep diving into the ocean for possibly the first first interstellar piece of rock or debris, perhaps. And these projects all take quite extreme funding. And so that's what we're talking about in this article from The Hill, written by Avi Loeb. And so, Dave, it seems like the big media is listening. What is your opinion of that?
Well, the first thing that I want to say is Avi Loeb, and I've never talked to the man. I've never had him on this show. Okay, but one of the things I do want to say is it just seems like his entire UFO life is about begging for donations. Okay, and look, I'm not insulting him by saying that, but it just seems like almost every article that comes out about Avi Loeb, it comes down to money. Where's the money? They have had Robert Bigelow. We currently have somebody like Brandon Fugel, who is estimated to be worth around $500 million. And there are others, Peter Thiel, the creator or co-creator of PayPal, is very much into this as well. But I mean, at some point, where does the stories about the UFO gravy train stop? I don't know, because I've never had a budget, what it means or where the money would go. Is it about paying people? Is it about buying new tools and technology for research? I honestly don't know. Maybe it's a combination of everything. But since the beginning, when Avi Loeb started getting a little bit more serious with Galileo, and even previous to that, with the Oumuamua potential rock or spaceship or whatever it may be, that's all he has been doing, Tim, is seeking out publicly for money. I mean, he's just doing a better job due to his credentials than the To the Stars Academy did. What's your thoughts on that? Am I being a little bit too negative?
No, no. And even in the article here, it says that common sense suggests that if the public and the government define the study of UAP and ISOs as important, it's the civil duty of scientists to help them figure out the nature of these anomalous objects. And I agree with that. But I also feel that it shouldn't be the public's responsibility to fund this. And it feels like he's looking for independent sources for funding, where it should be something that we're demanding from our government. And instead of him making a public statement like this towards perhaps us, it should be a behind the doors demand with his friend Sean Kirkpatrick that the two of them work together to fund his programs and some of his initiatives. Because obviously, all of those results will be shared directly with those offices, even more so, I assume, than the public. So
And
it shouldn't be the public that they're looking to for funding.
well, and you know what? Let's say I had $1 million to give. Why would I give $1 million if I'm not going to know the results? If
Well,
I
maybe
know,
that's your buy-in, to the results, perhaps.
no, I understand that. I understand with what you're saying. Okay. I mean, if I'm paying $1 million, obviously I'm going to say, look, I need to see the results
Yeah.
of my money. right? But the thing that I'm getting at is this. Wouldn't talking and sharing information be more important than money at this time? Hear me out on this. I could be completely wrong, okay? Or maybe I'm just not educated enough to fully comprehend the millions upon millions that he is trying to raise. Okay, but we have people who have been researching this for decades. Over that time, they have created their own sources, whether it's scientists, whether it's government officials, whether it's politicians, whether it's people like Jim Goodall when he was friends with Ben Rich. They talked about stuff. Okay. Where is the conversation in all of this? Because the one thing that Galileo and every other project has done is they have pushed ufology and the members of it who've worked their tails off for $0. Maybe you sell a few books, but mostly for $0. They have created extraordinary timelines of events and everything that has gone on. And to ignore those people and to ignore the free information that is out there, Tim, doesn't that seem a little bit too odd to you that they don't want to go down that road?
Yeah, it does, especially knowing that they have a well, let's put it this way. We know that the scientific community that's working on this and the government community surrounding this has a general disdain for us in this community and doesn't hold the witness themselves that high on their importance list, if you will, on keeping them in the loop on this information. Generally speaking, I have to say that my opinion would be that they feel like the public is not enough informed to make decisions to help on this topic, perhaps. Um, but again, I think we can see that reflected in how they handle the cases that are coming from the public. I mean, they want it en masse, but individually they have no interest in the source. Um, what it looks like is that it's always going to be a dollar driven sort of thing, where they want to spend money on maintain or obtaining their own data in whatever fashion that may be, whether it's their own research or their own organization of collection of data. It seems like they want to spend money on it, but it's not so much on the historical information or even in the witness information. It's on their own agenda, whatever that agenda might be. And it does seem typically to be searching out UAP, which is a topic that is different from UFO. And so that is fine if Avi Loeb is interested in looking for things that are UAP related and doing good scientific work on how exoplanets and things like that exist, and that perhaps that is parts of those planets make it here uh, in one way or another. I think that's fantastic science and it needs to be done, but it's not relating to the UFO visitation to Earth.
Right. And look, I am all about the science of this too. But there's got to be some honesty and integrity and transparency with it. And right now, I think we can all agree the science that is being done on this topic, barring a few rogue ones like Science Bob and many others, but this clique of scientists that seems to be all gathering around the new campfire, which we call Enigma Labs, really seems to be a clique of people who don't want to share that information publicly. They want to hoard it to themselves. And look, we need to be able to combine the woo with the science involved in this. And that may be the plan for this group down the road, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, 10, 20, 50 years, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, to me, it looks like a lot of these scientists are stepping over a $5 bill to pick up a quarter.
Yeah. And
Because
no, I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree. And I know we're going to go to break here shortly, but I'm going to bring up Alejandro Rojas had a tweet today concerning this article from Avi Loeb from The Hill. And Alejandro tweets that in this quote, the committee in charge of allocating funds to space research are full of mainstream scientists who argue that they should minimize risks. But the reality is that the taxpayers are fascinated by this question more than many other questions funded by these committees. And that was a quote of Avi's that he's repeating and tweeting out for us, which I think kind of highlights the fact that this is part of, the mainstream public that is interested in this. And I liked that Alejandro tweeted this out because he is the PR rep for Enigma Labs. And so perhaps this is part of the opinion of that organization. I'm totally open to that. But this does, kind of speak to the fact that we are looking for some sharing of information with the taxpayer because it's a long running question here in public.
Well, you're a lot more optimistic on that than I am. You're like Mr. Rose Petals and Rainbows when it comes to the fact that this may happen. I don't trust it. Okay. I think it's all part of a big game. We've seen the patterns, and Tim, you and I have gone over the patterns with our audience many times about what we have been able to figure out regarding this subject. And in the end, they could talk transparency, but until we see it, we got to think different. And somebody's got to speak on behalf of the public, and maybe that's us. Spaced Out Radio's UFO Report with little Timmy Seanor continues right after this. And when we return, we're going to get into lawmakers calling for more funding for UFOs. We'll be right back for the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio next. Timmy.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Not much. It's been such a beautiful day today. All gray skies and gloomy.
Oh, yeah. It was a good day today. Today we had sunshine upon sunshine.
Oh, nice. You still have snow?
Oh, yeah. We'll have still snow for a while.
How late in the season does it stick around for you in your yard?
It'll be here. It is starting to melt probably by the end of probably beginning of May.
Wow.
Yeah. Beginning of May. That's what we do. Every year it happens.
I assume you're not a mountain man. Do you snowboard or ski, or have you ever been into it?
I used to ski. Love skiing. Did you see that video from Mount Baker where the guy was trail skiing and he's cutting through some trees, and all of a sudden he cuts around this one tree and there is a snowboarder
head first
down head first.
Saves him.
That dude would have died there.
For sure.
That dude would have died there.
And he just happened upon him. That guy is a hero. I did see that. Wow. And he had a shovel in his backpack. I mean, what?
Yeah. Hi, Stephanie Jackson. Hello, Sonia Hazy. Welcome to SOR Chat. Anybody else new here? Joe, how you doing, Joe Ferreira in Brazil? Good to see you, my man. Yeah, it's that video is nuts. I mean, that guy was buried head first into the snow. Like, he couldn't breathe. He was struggling to breathe. And because of the snowboard with his ankles locked in and being upside down, he could, and with his arms tucked into the snow, he wasn't going anywhere. He wasn't going anywhere. And that was just panic mode right there. But I used to I used to love skiing, man. When my knees were healthy back in the day. Hey, Tim Mothman. When my knees were healthy, man, I used to love skiing. Love driving down to Mount Baker. They had some great black diamond and double black diamond runs.
Yeah. Yeah. Growing up in upstate New York, I was from a little town called Pittsford near Fairport, just outside of Rochester, New York. But it was about a 45-minute drive to this place, Hunt Hollow. We'd go out there and just ski all weekend. And I got pretty good as a kid. Ended up skiing for my high school. And then
nice.
I had a full ride going to UVM as a ski racer. And I was doing it wasn't, I think it was a giant slalom up at Lake Placid, New York. And they had me clocked at about 62 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
And my binding pre-released, my downhill binding pre-released, and I flew out into the woods and smashed my knee up and lost my free ride to go to University of Vermont.
Man.
Because it was like my senior year, so it was pretty brutal.
Damn it.
Ended up going to film school in New York, but that's a different story. It took me years to heal. It was so hardcore.
Oh, dude.
I
Tamisha Bertrand, how are you?
Yeah.
And Ross Dogs, what's happening? You know, it's that time of the night, Tim, where we got to say hello to all of our agents and agencies out there. Give us a call sometime. Remember, old Timmy and I can be bought for information. We can be bought for information. All right. And mortgage payments. We can be bought for both. Rowdy Dingo, welcome to SOR chat. How you doing? And
I have no mortgage. I'm all paid up, so it's gonna be tough.
I
got your work cut out.
I still got like 18 years to go.
Oh yeah, I get it.
Oh yeah, that's what I said. Pay the mortgage.
He can be bought, y'all.
We can be bought. We can be bought. Thank you.
He can be bought.
Hey, I got to say a big thank you to our super chatters tonight. Sweet Donnie Cho with a hat trick of super chats. Christopher Branham, Uncle Bones, Deb, Random Guy with 2, Horror Realm with a hat trick, Laura, Sugar Britches, Pam S, Kira, and Walter. Appreciate the love, everybody. Thank you.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah, you guys are amazing. Really appreciate it. All right, here we go, Tim. We got 3 seconds. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. The UFO report with Tim Seanor continues here on the mighty SOR, and now we're going to get into another set of funding. This time, I guess we're not getting enough from the government, Tim?
Yep, that's what's happening. Members of Congress have called for an increase in funding for the Pentagon's Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Research Office after the Biden administration's budget request was released. So Kirsten Gillibrand questioned Pentagon officials during a Senate Armed Service Committee hearing on March 28th, which included Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark A. Miley, and about a budget request for the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO. So Gillibrand, the chair of the Senate Armed Service Emerging Threats and Capabilities Subcommittee, questioned why the office was now underfunded for a second year. And Michael J. McCord, comptroller of the Department of Defense, told Gillibrand that he was unaware that the office needed more funding and was under the impression that there was adequate funding for the new formed organization. And so this article coming from the New York Post continues with Gillibrand arguing that the office wasn't receiving the basic operational funding that the multiple senators previously sent a letter to the United States excuse me, Deputy Secretary of Defense Kathleen Hicks, specifying what the funding was needed for. And so the letter to Hicks was included with Senator Mark Rubio and 12 other senators, sending out this request on February 16th and calling for total funding for AARO. And after the Biden administration failed to provide the office with proper funding the prior year, the outlet was reporting. And so, understanding that the exact figures were classified and couldn't be revealed during the hearing, grilling Austin about why the office needed proper funding following the Chinese spy balloons incidents was leaving Gillibrand kind of frustrated. The incidents last month involving the Chinese high balloon and the three unknown objects highlighted the need for us to continue to improve our understanding of UAPs over the US airspace. And so Austin said, who will he ensure the office receiving the total funding for the future? And told Gillibrand that the Pentagon requested the $11 million for its research in the fiscal year of 2024, which Gillibrand revealed was not the budget that the office requested. So by this new release from the New York Post, we're seeing that there's a lot of misinformation, even amongst the officials that are funding this organized new AARO group. And also, when it appears in a similar article, when we were trying to get information on the subcommittee that was created directly by the president for information, that Biden special group information is absolutely not being released to anyone. So we're not able to get any updates on that intercommittee, if you will. But now we're starting to see them even try to deny that they understand the need for more funding or even the numbers of the current funding that is being made available. So it sounds like a lot of head scratching, a lot of passing the buck, and still no answers. Pretty frustrating that they're fumbling the ball or trying to appear that they're fumbling the ball at least. But it was good to see Senator Gillibrand come to the defense and keep people in check. Dave, what's your opinion of what's taking place here?
Well, you know what? I think it's pretty simple, Tim. What we're seeing is the government allotted a bunch of money for UFO and UAP research. Okay, that was in the budget. The military is being called out for not spending the money and not allotting it for what it's supposed to do. Number one, this was Lou Elizondo's biggest complaint with the old ATIP program. But what's interesting is the military branches who take the defense budget, they're not used to being called out for their spending. They're used to having the open paycheck from taxpayers of the United States. They're used to being able to just do what they want, that the money is there, so they should be able to allot it how they want to, and not for the spending on UAP, which we all know are drones. So, I mean, we also learned last year, Tim, if we can remind our audience, that the United States Navy said they weren't playing the UFO game anymore. They weren't doing it. They were going to go silent, much like the Army has been silent, much like the United States Air Force critically has been silent. They said they didn't want anything to do with it anymore. They were done with the topic. There'd be no more videos, nothing coming towards the public. So should we really be surprised that the money that was allotted for AARO hasn't been given to that department? No, we shouldn't, because this is the military industrial complex pulling what they are, the big tough kid on the block. They're the bully. And this bully is winning and has been winning for the last 50, 60 years.
You're absolutely right. And even in a quote from Mark Rubio, he says that they just put a placeholder number on it, meaning the allocation of the funds. And luckily, we're not going to pay attention to the Biden administration's budget numbers, right? And they're just going to push forward with their requests. And so, in what they're calling kind of this new regime, if you will, of senators that are huddling around this topic, we're going to see a really hard push for this. And they're not going to let anyone above them just push the topic off. We're going to see them following this topic a lot more and hopefully bring some more attention to the public, hopefully, with that funding, because with that, we'd get more headlines, obviously, and hopefully results.
Right on. Right on. Let's move to another topic here, Tim, as we continue on, because to be honest with you, when it comes to money, I don't know if we could trust anybody when it comes to the UFO topic. That is for sure. All right, let's go to NASA announces Artemis astronauts who will fly to the moon for the first time in half a century. Should we be excited about this, Tim?
Yes. Yes, we absolutely should. It's been a long time since it's been 30 years. It's time that we return back. And NASA has announced the names of the 4 astronauts who will be flying to the moon for the first time since 1972. So the astronauts who will fly on the historic Artemis 2 mission are Reed Wiseman, Christina Hammock Koch, and Victor Glover from the United States, and then Jeremy Hansen from Canada. And these people will be strapped to the world's most powerful rocket, and they will embark on a 10-day journey to the moon and back in November of 2024. So the Artemis 2 is the second of 3 missions designed to test out the hardware, software, and ground systems intended to one day establish a moon base and transport the first humans to Mars. So Artemis 1, the first test flight, launched in November of 2022, sending the uncrewed Orion capsule fixed to the top of a 26-day, 1.4 million mile round trip to the moon. And so Artemis 2's human crew will take a similar trip before Artemis 3, scheduled for 2025 or 2026. And that will send the first woman and the first person of color to land on the lunar South Pole itself. So together, and this is in a quote from Administrator Bill Nelson, together we will usher in a new era of exploration for a new generation of star sailors and dreamers, the Artemis generation. So that's NASA Administrator Bill Nelson saying at a news conference on Monday, April 3rd, continuing the quote, "Together we are going to the moon, to Mars, and beyond." And so it's really exciting times having Artemis 2's journey that will be slightly shorter than its predecessors, taking the crew on a maximum 10-day voyage beyond the moon and back. The exact distance they will travel away from Earth has yet to be confirmed, but it could take the astronauts farther from Earth than any human has ever gone before, according to NASA. So after slingshotting around the moon, Artemis 2's Orion capsule will hurtle through Earth's atmosphere at red-hot temperatures before splashing down in the Pacific. And it's going to be a 4-day journey going 250,000 miles, continuing to test out every bit of Orion, going around the far side of the moon, heading home, and going through Earth's atmosphere at over 25,000 miles an hour. And so you can imagine that those astronauts are incredibly excited. And for people that are following in the news, USA Today had a really great photo of the brave people that are going to be going up into space, and definitely some new heroes for a new generation of people that want to see us maybe formally have a presence permanently on the moon.
I love it. I do. This is the type of stuff. Look, you've heard me talk very negatively about NASA, especially with their role in ufology, but I love spaceflight, dude. I do. There is something really exciting about it. I'm very proud of our Canadian astronaut for joining the American crew and getting a once in a lifetime opportunity to do this. And look, this is like the beginning stages of Apollo once again, where we got to fly around the moon, we got to test the new technology. Why they just wouldn't go into the secret space force and use some of their craft, we don't know. But high alphabet agencies, how are you? Remember, Tim and I can be bought. Good to have you here. And but I love the idea that we are doing this and we are getting out there and exploring. And if it means that we are going to, redo or if this is the way to admit that we already got bases on the moon, if we already do, like some believe, it's going to be interesting to see how quickly this plays out. But it all starts. I mean, the sad part about it is we shouldn't be having to do this. There's a lot more money being wasted today than there was 50 years ago during the Apollo missions that had not even a 16th of the technology that we do today, because we should have already known how to do this already. And realistically, we should have been doing this for probably the last 15 years at minimum. So, I mean, is it little bit better late than never? Yes, of course, but at least we're doing it. And at least we are taking that time to explore once again. I mean, this is every kid's dream, just to go up in space, go look at the moon up and close and personal, even though you won't be able to touch it, but to be there, to watch us on Earth rise, to maybe see something a little bit anomalous and take a photograph. That won't be released for about another 62 years.
You're absolutely right. It's super exciting times. And if people would like to read a little bit more of the bios of the astronauts, they can go to nasa.com, or they can read the article that I just presented here from livescience.com. But there is a lot of risk involved with these journeys to space still to this day. Our technology is not beyond what you would call natural occurrences. They had a lightning strike that hit the Mega Moon rocket launch pad during tests of Artemis 1, and things like that just happen. And so we always know that there's a huge element of risk for these people that are involved. And the journey into space is definitely one of the biggest strides that mankind could ever take. And the human beings that are involved in that exploration are absolutely some of the bravest humans I can imagine on Earth. That just takes absolute guts. And so I'm always excited about things like this. I'm going to be glued to this. And so we'll definitely be reporting on it.
Absolutely. We have 5.5 minutes. Let's get to our final story of the night. Congress prepares for UFO hearings as frustrations escalate.
Indeed. And so this is a great story coming from the Liberation Times. And if we just, let's see what's happening with my reader here. Excuse me. I apologize. You'll have to bear with me while my reader thinks and populates the screen. This is not usual. So here we go. Coming from Chris Sharp. This is talking about... Here we go. I apologize for this. As previously reported by Liberation Times, multiple congressional committees may be involved. And according to one source, certain politicians intend to hold UAP hearings before the summer recess. However, it should be cautioned that until confirmed outside events relating to fallout from other things that are in our news at this point, such events could potentially divert the attention of Congress and the Pentagon and Intelligence Committee. However, Liberation Times in particular understands that Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and Representative Tim Burchett are keen to hold these hearings within the Senate and the House. The possible spectacle of public hearings on the UAP issue comes amid growing frustrations publicly voiced within Congress. Last week, during a Senate Armed Service Committee hearing on Tuesday, Gillibrand spoke out, questioning senior Pentagon officials, including Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, about the budget request for the AARO task in investigating UAP. And Gillibrand, who chairs the Armed Service Subcommittee, was concerned why the AARO was underfunded for the second year in a row. And in that quote, she was saying, "I was disappointed that for a second year in a row, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, was not fully funded in the department's budget request. Understanding that we cannot get into the specific budget figures in this forum, and asking why there was not a fully funding taking place." And in response, Michael McCord, under the Secretary of Defense Comptroller, seemed to suggest that Ronald Moultrie, under the Secretary of Defense of Intelligence and Security, had not relayed any concerns or requests for further funding, stating, "Senator, I don't have any information from my colleague." And so it's one of those dances that we were seeing, and it looks like we're going to have to stand up for public hearings. Funding for the AARO is pressing concerns for Congress. In February, following the Chinese balloon fiasco, a number of senators signed a joint letter stating the need to fund. And whilst highlighting the importance of cooperation between Congress and the Department of Defense, it's in the intelligence community stating that the role of Moultrie's office has previously criticized regarding the UAP issue. And so the former director of the Aerospace Threat Identification ATIP, or Lou Elizondo, was speaking to the Liberation Times, commented, "Let's not forget that Moultrie's office is the same office for which I worked in the past. And it's the same office that continuously lied about this topic to Congress and the American people, and is the same office that persecuted whistleblowers." So it looks like we may get a chance to have some public hearings this summer. In fact, potentially in the next month or two. And if that happens, it would effectively bring this to the public. And hopefully we can have the proper questions brought. And it looks like last week, Vice Chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Mark Rubio, delivered opening remarks at a hearing, and this was on vetting the modernization. And Rubio used the occasion to voice his frustrations regarding the lack of information provided to the committee regarding the Chinese surveillance balloon shoot down over the East Coast. And Rubio recommended that more transparency was taking place between the committees, and that there was more funding for AARO, and that maybe this is because it's a DoD Intelligence Committee overlap. But whatever it is, these are just things that we need answers to. So, Dave, I'm sorry to put you to sleep, but I got to tell you, this is some pretty frustrating stuff. And the more I hear on this topic, the more I agree we need these public hearings.
No, you're absolutely right. We need the public hearings, but we need them to be public.
Yeah.
Okay. You can have all the hearings you want, and I was just thinking while you were speaking, about these whistleblowers, because now the whistleblowers, we're hearing there's at minimum 3 that have come out, okay, and have spoken in front of Congress and members of Congress. It's very tough, dude, in order to learn about this subject, learn about what's going on with zero transparency. If there's nothing to cover, why are they hiding it? If there's nothing to cover up, I don't get it. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And go ahead. I'm just getting frustrated.
And meanwhile, they're doing the dance of shuffling the funding around so that they can't actually get the answers they're supposedly looking for. It's incredibly frustrating. And that's why it's time that the senators spoke up, as they are, and holding everyone accountable, meanwhile demanding public hearings.
Oh, very true. Very true. Tim, we could talk forever on this, but we will leave it for another night. And of course, if you're on our YouTube channel, you can stick around for overtime, because we'll light it up there as well. Thank you, Tim. And we got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot all rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
We're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home.
I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night.